way. And part of that has been to work in conjunction with the proposed multi-use path that will go all along the North Estes frontage. So we'll have room for that. We also have opportunities for folks to go in and out of the property. There's a great organizing plaza at the corner here. I'll show some images in a minute of what that might look like. And we have obviously eliminated that tabletop parking that we had over on the north edge. And also one of the comments that we got from the council, the earlier plan, the April plan, had 2 layers of parking, with the upper layer actually being at the second floor of the residential buildings. People felt that was awkward. It took away from the experience, created some less desirable space on the first floor of the building. So we still have 2 layers of parking, but what we're doing is this. We are excavating underneath what you see here. So there will be 180 parking spaces below grade, down in the ground, buried in the ground. And then these surface spaces above that. And these surface spaces now will be at the first floor level. So you will not have to climb up to go to those parking spaces. Those will be at the first floor. And we think they're well hidden with the units that are built around that.
Dan, sorry.
Yes.
While you're talking about the apartment complex, can you address the height of the buildings?
Yes.
How far the setback is of those buildings with green space between Estes and those buildings?
I can. I'll talk about the buildings in a minute. And then if we could hold questions till the end, then we'll have the whole team pull those together. But the buildings are a good question. As I said, the townhouses are 3 stories tall. The vertical units are 4 stories tall, and the apartments are 4 stories tall. And I think overall, I'd also like to say, I think many of you know that the town hired a new urban designer back in November, December of last year. And he has been a joy to work with and has gotten very engaged in projects as they're starting to come through Chapel Hill, this one being no exception. So what I'd like to do quickly before we get into questions and answers is sort of show some imagery that our architects have pulled together. So this is looking toward the west from the woodland area, from the, as we call it, the park, from the Resource Conservation District. So you'll see it'll be a lot of green space with trails. There'll be some play areas. There's actually underground stormwater management over in this corner area over here. But this will sort of be that eastern walking pedestrian gateway to go not only into the park, but to work your way into the village green and also make a much more pleasant walk over to where the bus rapid transit stop will be. This is right now the concept of what the entrance off of Martin Luther King Jr. Will look like. This is just a little corner of where the bus rapid transit station will be. By the way, that's early in the design phases, so we are working with the town's consultant, AECom, on figuring out the exact location and configuration of what that station might look like. But again, those are those 4-story buildings. This is a great pedestrian entranceway into the neighborhood, and these are residential units. Here's a rendering, a concept of what the entranceway would look like right at the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. and North Estes. So this would be an entrance plaza, which obviously would be very pedestrian friendly. But there was a call in the Central West Plan to create a signature space and some signature architecture at that location. So this would be another not only gateway into this retail village area that I talked about the plan on a minute before, but this could also be a great space for outdoor dining and plazas, could be program space, really creates a lot of ground floor vitality. This would be the 4-story residential building on this side, and these would be the ground floor retail with upper story residential over on this side. And then finally, this is a rendering of what the interior looks like if you're standing in that village green, looking back toward MLK on the far side, but this is looking into that plaza, that retail plaza with the upper story residential, and how we plan on programming there with art, water. There's a children's playground in there. There's structures, but again, we're trying to create a great experience in here, ground floor experience, not only for the people that live here, might want to come and shop here, grab a cup of coffee, whatever, but also for folks that are just passing through, coming from the bus rapid transit station through the neighborhood, and then back out to the east or the southeast, back out on Southwest East Drive. So just a quick summary of the things that we've done since the last meeting. We've created a very generous central green organizing community space, as well as that secondary space near the retail shops. We're working with the town and consultants to accommodate the planned BRT station and the multi-use trails, which are proposed to go not only on North Estes, but also on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and create a gateway to the neighborhoods all around, not just to this project, but to all of the neighborhoods around. The impacts to the RCD have been largely eliminated by proposing underground stormwater management, and will now create the woodlands area with trails and open spaces available to the public. We've buffered the northern property line, and the buildings are now only 3-story townhomes rather than the apartment blocks that we had before. Any above ground structured parking has been eliminated. We've provided greater articulation of the buildings and green space along North Estes and MLK. And most importantly, because we heard at the public hearing from you all and from the council that the big concern was traffic, is our traffic engineering consultant. And by the way, the Trinsic hired another traffic engineer to supplement the work that the town's traffic consultant was doing. He has figured out a way to take the existing stacking on North Estes, which is about 1,500 feet during the peak hour, and reduce that down to 500 feet. So one of our goals, and one of the things that it looks like we're going to be able to do, is not only not make the traffic any worse than it is today, but make these local roadway conditions better than they are today. So with that, this is your meeting, as Michael said. We are here to hear what you have to say. We're going to be furiously taking notes. We'll answer whatever questions that you might have, and see if there's a way that we can incorporate any of those into the design as we progress through the system. So thank you again. And I'll stop.
I put my hand up.
I'm going to unshare so we can see people putting their hand up.
Oh, I'm putting my hand up. There, raise hand. Okay.
And Michael, if I can leave it up to you to be sort of the moderator.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm trying to look for hand raises. Not sure that I'm seeing any at the moment, but I do see some physically. I think I heard Joan Bettman first, and then Brian Daniels.
Yes, I just have a quick question. When Shadow Woods was built and then Poker Woods, all the water was directed to our property. So I'm sensitive about what's going to happen with the underground piping. Where is that going to exit? I know it won't exit at my house, I don't think, because of the location, but I care about people below me, below your, it's been awful. I mean, it floods because we get all the water, and I don't want someone else to have that experience.
Yeah, as you should. So we legally, not just morally, because it's the right thing to do, we are not allowed to block water coming onto the property off-site. And just to let you know, I didn't pull a topo map up, but all of this property drains down, obviously, into the creek that is the RCD, and then that works its way down under North Estes Drive and goes underneath there.
So when it comes off your property or this developmental property, it's going to go down Estes Drive to the creek?
It's going to go down to the creek that goes under Estes Drive, but we will be managing all that stormwater. In other words, we're going to have to, so we can't block any of the water coming from the north, from Shadowwood, from your neighborhood. That will continue to flow into the property. We may divert it or redirect it, but we will then take the additional runoff coming from our site. We will run that through underground cisterns and storm filters and other measures that are required to control the rate of the runoff and the quality of the runoff before it does go down into the creek and eventually under North Estes and goes down to the south.
I think the rate is very important because our land was flat and now it's a huge wide ditch because there's so much erosion.
Good to know. Thank you. We'll go take a look at that.
Dan, this is Julie. I have a follow-up to that question.
Sure.
It would be really great if you could provide a map that shows where the water is flowing off this property. Some, I believe, might go to the Booker Creek and some might go to the Bowen, but maybe it all goes to Bowen. But it would really be helpful for us to see that as part of your package so people can understand what the possible impact might be on their property.
That would be it'd be easy to do and be happy to do that.
Thank you.
And then I had a follow-up on the transportation, Dan. Could you tell us where we can find the data that supports the idea that your traffic engineer, and it's a wonderful idea if it's true, has reduced the amount of congestion on Estes Drive?
Yes,
Could you
I'm
tell
going
us
to.
where we can find that data?
So I'm going to ask traffic engineer Earl Llewellyn to jump on and see if that information has been made available to the town yet. And if not, I'm sure it soon will be, and it'll become public information. So, Earl, are you able to answer that one?
Yes, sir. Thanks, Dan. The traffic study that we provided has been sent to the town for review. I honestly don't know if it's been posted on the website at this point. And I don't know if that's something Judy knows in advance, but we can certainly find a way to make that accessible. I also similarly don't know if, similarly, I don't know if the town's consultant's TIA is on the town's website. So maybe that's a twofold question.
And I think that the TIA that you do have is not reflective of this plan. It was of a former plan. So we actually need the new TIA information as well, I believe. Am I correct about that?
That's a good point. That was one of the reasons that we were asked to look at an update because the land uses are slightly different, as you pointed out, slightly less impact, less intense traffic impact in the morning peak, just a little bit more in the afternoon. So you're exactly right.
Okay, we look forward to getting that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll be in communication with the town in both those regards.
I have another question regarding traffic. I saw in the first drawing a roundabout. How will that roundabout impact the church across the street?
Earl, do you want to try that one again? I think the roundabout has been eliminated.
That's correct. The roundabout was actually sort of a preliminary thought about a way of managing traffic, and several things have changed since then. One is the town's multimodal project for Estes, and then the other is just envisioning overall traffic flow along Estes, where the volumes are much higher east and west on Estes, as you might imagine, as they are north and south out of any individual driveways. Roundabouts are better when the traffic flows are balanced, generally speaking. The other thing that's detrimental about a roundabout is it takes up a lot of space, about 100 and once you get all the sidewalks, bike lanes, all those types of facilities outside the pavement area, They take up about 160 feet of area. So that was deemed not to be the best solution, not only from a neighborhood standpoint, but from a traffic standpoint.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Michael, I see a raised hand with Joan Bettman. Joan, did we answer your question, or do you still have?
Yes, I believe that you're going to look into the water.
The water flow. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I thought so. And then Gary Saunders also has a raised hand.
Yeah, just to jump in, Dan, I think that Brian Daniels has been waiting for a little while to ask his question, so I want to go.
That's right, because I put pause on him during the presentation. Apologies, Brian.
Yeah. So Dan, could you tell us how many total residential units are going to be put on that property? So how many apartments, how many townhomes, how many new people?
Yeah, total of about 410 to 15 residential units at this point.
So you're going to hear this concern from us as residents again and again, especially those of us that have been involved in Chapel Hill for decades, is how do you think now is the right time to add more apartments to our community? So I think you're going to hear that again and again as we go through the next months of process. You need to have a good answer, I would recommend. I think the second question I have is around tree cover. So, growing up here in the 70s and 80s, I always saw that lot with really mature trees. Having moved back into the community about 6 months ago, I was shocked to see it clear cut. So I'm wondering what your plans are to sort of replace that mature tree cover in that area, given the aesthetics of the surrounding community.
Plant trees. We're going to plant trees. And you can see
how many and how big.
Oh, I don't know yet. We're premature, but I think that's a great question, and we will certainly have to bring that some of those numbers back to the advisory boards and the council when we get in front of them. So,
and I'll just one follow-up question, and I'll allow it to move on to others. Kind of my initial reaction to what you've shown tonight is that we see a lot of buildings, not a lot of trees, especially as it faces the roads, which isn't really, in my opinion, consistent with Chapel Hill's aesthetic. So I will be concerned about tree cover, especially as it faces Estes and MLK as this project moves forward.
Yeah, good comments. And I'll go scold our architect. Our architects always hate to hide their pretty buildings with trees, so we'll have a chat with them, okay?
Well, the truth is this is a treed community, so we need to see actually what it's going to look like in these discussions.
Thanks for your comments.
So Dan, it looks like we have a lot of comments coming in through the chat box as well. So I do want to try to address some of those, but I think I saw one more hand raised if we can, two more hands raised. So Sandy and then R.L. Giuliano. Sandy, it looks like you're muted.
Dan, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
I'm just wondering if there's any chance of softening the appearance of the buildings. To me, they look very industrial and not very welcoming. But that may be just me, but that would be a concern of mine. I just don't think it looks like Chapel Hill at all.
100% agree with you.
We will pass those comments along. Would trees help?
Probably not.
Okay.
That would help, of course. But it reminds me of being in Germany and seeing, bunkers. So I don't find it welcoming or warm.
Yeah, they look like a lot of other buildings that are being built all around Durham Chapel Hill, and they're not.
Yes, so we want to do better than that, Dan. You can.
Right. Thank you. We will pass that along. The architects are probably listening.
Thank you.
I had a question, Dan, Julie.
Yes.
So my question is, to what degree have you been working with neighboring property owners? There are a lot of them. There's Shadowwood, which with the driveway pretty close. There's Coker Woods neighborhood back of you. There's Whit Rummel's property, and I think he's interested in developing on Estes Drive. Across the street, there's the church and the YMCA. And of course, across the way, there's UNC Carolina North. And we all know that one of the reasons why the town was interested in developing and seeing more density in this area was because there was going to be a big university complex there. And now that is not going to happen. In fact, it's going to be a solar farm. So conditions really have changed. So my first question is, to what degree have you worked with all these property owners? Because this area is key that it be coordinated, and the town has spent 1.5 years planning the area. So we want to see those plans go to good effect.
Yeah, understand. I can personally attest to talking to all of the adjacent property owners, except, and only because I have not personally had the conversations with the people in Coker Woods. But I suspect a lot of the Coker Woods folks are on this meeting this evening. So I'll use this as an opportunity for additional outreach to let us know if you want to meet individually or meet as a neighborhood or both. We're happy to do that. But we've had lots of conversation with WIT, Shadowwood, the YMCA, the church, and the university as well.
Well, thank you. But you know, it's really key that those parties, particularly the ones you mentioned, WIT, Rummel, maybe the YMCA. I mean, if there isn't a coordinated transportation solution here, it isn't really going to work. You know.
Yes, we heard that loud and clear 2 years ago, 9 months ago, and today. Thank you.
Oh, can I have to ask? Hello?
Yeah, can we hold on a second, folks, if I can just interject. So Gary Saunders has been very patiently had his hand up, and then Fred.
And also R.L. Giuliano has been waiting for a while. So
okay, so if we can go in that order first.
Okay, so this is Gary Saunders, and you want to hear from Coker Woods. I'm the president of the Coker Woods Homeowners Association. So you've addressed a number of the issues that we're concerned about. A couple of people put things that we've seen within the chat box. I mean, one of the issues that we've experienced here since the property was clear cut is that some of our homeowners on the, I guess that would be on the south end of our development, have been experiencing runoff issues during heavy rain. So we have that as kind of a natural concern to deal with. It looks like you've dealt with the question about how high the buildings are going to be on our property boundary. We had some concern about that. Traffic, of course, is always the issue since, you know, some of us have been living here since Coker Woods was built, and Estes Drive has always been an issue and has gotten worse. So I see that the traffic plan is actually up on the site. I haven't had a chance to take a look at it, but we will take a look at it. So, but I am a contact for the Homeowners Association if you want to reach out to me.
We would love to do that. Thank you, and we will. And Fred is next.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have to question the mix of units that you're planning. I'm sure you're doing what the developer Trinsic has suggested, but I'm wondering, are they aware of the situation in Chapel Hill? We have 5,191 apartments already under construction, approved, or formally in the planning process at this point in time. At the same time, there are only, in the whole town, only 77 townhouse units. And I believe that you've got the mix in your development entirely wrong. And likewise would suggest that to have a viable retail area, you have to have more space. 12,000 square feet just gets you, one or two restaurants. And that isn't going to make it go. You need on the order of 50,000 square feet to have a viable retail complex. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Michael, who's next?
Hi, can I?
R.L. Giuliano. Yes.
Can I pitch in here? So I've got a comment and question on the traffic issues. I think when you do your TIA, you need to make sure that your data doesn't reflect the decline in traffic due to the pandemic. We need to get a realistic assessment of what the traffic will be. So question is, the driveway on Estes, is that a right in, right out driveway?
Earl, do you have an answer to that? I believe it's full
Because-
movement, is it not?
The driveway onto Estes is full movement.
Boy,
and
that is,
excuse
yeah.
me, we'll be providing exclusive left and right turn lanes on Estes at that drive. To your first question, yes, I agree as well. The traffic counts were collected before COVID. They were collected in January.
Okay.
January, February. I can't remember exactly what.
Okay. Additional questions, Mr. Giuliano?
So, did you say that the street changes have been posted now? Is that correct? Did someone mention that? I guess I'm just curious about this sort of remarkable change in the traffic situation that your analysis is proposing. Can you give us at least an outline of what you're proposing to do in terms of changing lanes, changing the traffic pattern?
Yeah. Earl, I think it'd be fair to give a high-level overview on that.
I was on mute there.
That's all right.
If I could, and if I'm allowed to share my screen, I would like to show a graphic if I could. I think that would, if I could take a moment to do that, bear with me. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So just for orientation, obviously, NC 86, Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard over to the left.
Sorry about
Estes.
that. I think about. Yeah,
Sorry? Anyway, east-west is Estes. This is the site drive onto Estes, the site drive onto MLK Parkway here. It may be a little bit difficult to see some of the shading we've got, but there's two things happening here. The town has a plan to improve some laneage as part of their bike and pedestrian multimodal improvements along Estes. That includes, and I hope you can see my cursor here, this is a new northbound right turn lane on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard at Estes. Also on the southbound approach, there's a new southbound right turn lane on MLK at Estes. Also as part of their project is construction of a second eastbound left turn lane on Estes at MLK. So the issue that we have right now is we have lanes that are insufficient for capacity through the intersection. All that spillback spills into one westbound through lane. Then, because those queues can't be served on one signal cycle, you have compounding queues. So traffic extends back to about 1,500 feet, maybe a little more, in the area of Somerset Drive on occasion. And so that's twofold because of the capacity and the queuing issue. So what we're doing is adding additional capacity through the intersection. That not only gives you more capacity, but you can reassign the signal green time more appropriately. And then we're adding additional storage links for those turn lanes. What you're seeing here in orange is the additional improvements that this project will be making above and beyond the town's project. That is lengthening the right turn lane, additional widening to get in a much longer second left turn lane. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, a left turn lane into this site drive and a right turn lane into the site drive. What that does is shorten these queues that are it's certainly in the neighborhood of 1,500 feet to something that's more in the order of 500 to 550 feet. The applicant said, we need to mitigate our traffic. we need to make sure we mitigate the neighborhood's concerns. But quite honestly, you need to make sure that traffic works for this site as well, because this site drive has to work or the project doesn't work. And so that's what this package of improvements does.
So I had a follow-up question for you. Could you tell us what impact you expect these added lanes, which will allow for extra stacking, will mean for someone coming out of Somerset Drive? Because that neighborhood really, if you take all the school traffic, pickups and drop-offs, that it's really hard to get in and out of that neighborhood.
Good question. Right now, what happens, I actually live not too far away from here, so I come through this area occasionally. What happens is, as I said, the queues back up, even if they're not blocking Somerset. Someone approaching from the east sees that queue of traffic and starts slowing down. So even if the queues, are only back to here, folks are slowing down and starting to close gaps that folks in Somerset need to get out. Well, when the queues are up in this area as a maximum, that operates much better.
Okay.
And I believe we provided this sketch to the town, I believe, so I think it may be online as well.
That would be great. It would really be helpful to get a sketch of this, because it's a little hard to tell what's happening on this map.
I apologize. The site is sort of long and it's sort of hard to get everything on, but we can, if my client permits, I'm certainly ready to share this to the town for closer observation. And some of this is a little difficult to understand, because we try to highlight where we're making additional pavement, which is what the orange is, but it doesn't really show where the lanes are being added. So it's sort of a supplement to the text in the traffic study, if you will.
But so can we be clear about what's currently on screen? Is this a proposal developed for the town or by the town?
I guess it's half and half, if you would. There's part of it that are the town improvements that are a part of their Estes Drive multimodal project, which not only the lanes that I talked about, but adding bike and pedestrian amenities along the south side of Estes here, continuing all along the frontage, and then moving over to the north side of Estes. We'll be completing that same concept in addition to the lanes that we're talking about. Outside the lanes we're showing here, we'll also have mirrored bike and pedestrian improvements outside the travelway.
So because there's a lot of concerns expressed around traffic, and I think some questions around with the Azalea development that's opening shortly, and other commercial properties, a church, a YMCA. I think this is the topic that those of us that live in the Somerset neighborhood are going to be very concerned about, frankly. And if I'm interpreting your answer correctly, it sounds like you are taking plans the city has, and then your client, the developer of this property, is making additional suggestions that the town would approve. Is that correct?
You broke up just for a minute there, but I think what you were saying is that we're taking the town's plans, which are supposed to move forward in about, Judy, I think it's sometime early next year, that these construction projects are to be let from the town's perspective. And then, yes, sort of taking those as a starting point with our development and continuing those through the project frontage to better address the stacking concerns.
So
Could you address the question from Katie Hughes that's in the chat, which deals with, she wants clarification on the new TIA. Could you address that question?
Earl, I'll read that to you. It says Coker Woods also has concerns about separation along the north border with Shadowwood. That's not the one.
I think it's the next one. It's I'd like clarification on the new TIA that will be made available.
That's it.
Yeah.
Clarification on the new TIA that will be made available. Are you saying the TIA was done before COVID-19 and after the changes you discussed in the meeting. I thought the previous plan was from April. So the response to that is that the traffic counts, the counts of cars was done pre-COVID. So it was during the busy season. But Earl, correct me if I'm wrong, the work that you are doing right now to figure out how to mitigate, those are based on the current plan as proposed, correct?
It is based on the town's current plans, yes, and also based on the higher pre-COVID traffic volumes. Yes, that's right.
My name is Tim O'Shea. I have a question that's really directed to town staff. So maybe Michael or someone else can field this. So the development team is, proposing, putting forth some new analysis, proposing some traffic improvements. But the effectiveness of all of this would seem really highly reliant on some assumptions that are made about things like people moving into Azalea Estates, or the status of the BLT or the BRT, excuse me, which will be, I understand, substantially delayed, and maybe other town-wide developments that, frankly, it wouldn't be fair to expect the developer team to necessarily have full knowledge of. So I'm wondering, can town staff tell us what you do with all of this analysis and presentation by the developers to challenge and verify and come up with your own independent view on the sufficiency of these proposed enhancements?
Sure. So I will try to speak to that the best that I can. We have traffic engineer on staff who does review all of the TIAs that are done for development projects in town. And we also work to make sure that the TIAs that are done do take into consideration any upcoming plans, such as BRT, new development projects, anywhere where there's new sources of traffic, anywhere that there's changes in flow or traffic timing or anything like that. So our traffic engineer does take a very close look at that to make sure that the assumptions are correct and that the outcome of the TIA also appears to be correct. And Judy, I don't know if you want to add anything to that about the process.
So we also, one point I wanted to add, so it's only from a traffic impact analysis, we're only looking at projects that are approved. So Azalea would be part of this. Projects that are still under contemplation are not included in that analysis. We also have a technical review team, which is, I think there's probably about 30 people from town staff on there. We have a variety of disciplines on that are reviewing the projects for all kinds of issues. Stormwater, fire, AWASA is part of that, NCDOT is part of that, our traffic engineer, we have our bike ped folks, we have long range planning. So we do review these projects very carefully. Our main focus is on compliance and meeting our ordinance. So that's a large part of our focus.
Thank you. Would it be possible at some later juncture in this review process for this proposal for the town to have a presentation that can be a little bit more detailed and comprehensive on the traffic process, and that would be driven maybe by the sorts of review that Judy and Michael have just described? So that we're hearing, Kumar, I think is the person's name, maybe him and some others in the town giving their perspective on the sufficiency, so that we're not just hearing from the developer team, so to speak.
Sure, we'd be happy to work on arranging that. I did want to say we have a lot of questions in our chat, and I mean I'm very aware of those out there, and trying to just interest in time. And I know we have quite a lot of people interested in this project, and want to get you all of the answers that we can. And I was going to suggest if we put questions, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We will work with. I mean, we'll share them with the applicant to prepare responses to those, and we will post those or email those out to you. And I mean, our interest as town staff is making sure you have all the answers that we can provide you. So put them in the chat. I mean, we probably won't get to all of them tonight. And I know we're happy to set up additional meetings and focus one on traffic. We can have Kumar at that meeting, and our transportation planners at that meeting to provide some information about the Estes Drive and bike and pedestrian improvement project, that sort of thing. So we're happy to arrange that.
Yeah, Judy, I think that would be great, because obviously that's one of the big interests of folks around. I think what it'll also reveal that right now the proposal is going above and beyond what the town's TIA is actually recommending. So be good to hear folks' input on that at that meeting. So thank you.
The Savior states it's not even in this because they don't do it until it's through.
Judy, to follow on to Tim's question, who in the town would look at the financial impact of big developments like this in terms of what it's actually costing the town?
So we have we do quite a bit of work on cost of services. So our finance folks are the ones who are knowledgeable about that. I mean, I have none of that knowledge, but we can certainly share that and get information from them.
Well, and would they have any authority to nix projects because they aren't cost effective?
So the one thing to remember is the process here. So as far as like nixing an approval, that is a town council. It is a town council decision. So the town staff is here to help facilitate this project through our review process. And I mean, we want to help you understand and get as much information. And if it's information about the cost of services of this development on the town, we can work with our staff to help provide that information.
Thank you.
So I do want to be cognizant of everyone's time, and we do have a lot of questions. So I do want to reiterate that we will take down, I'm actually already copying over all of these questions that have been put into the chat, and we'll work with Dan and the developers team to try to answer all of these questions, and we'll post them on the website.
How about addressing some of the questions for the Coker Woods, since they're quite affected? Somebody asked very concerned about the northern building height and what the border wall details much is like and how much buffer, etc. Could you address that? Would you or the applicant address that?
Yeah, Dan, that might be a better question for you to answer.
Sure. So we will address that. We'll come back with sort of some ideas on the density of planting and whether there's any structures proposed along that edge as well. I don't know that we're currently proposing a fence or a wall, but that's why we have these meetings, so that we can hear from you all and see what's important to you. And we will get back with you.
Just understanding, I mean, the whole new world of virtual meetings, and I think it would be very helpful if we did plan a subsequent meeting to talk further. And I mean, we can have a focus meeting on traffic for those who are interested in that. We can then have a meeting, happy to meet with the Coker Woods neighborhood. And if this is strictly from the town side, and we're happy to help you as much as you can. You can either contact Michael His email is msudol, SUDOL, and we're all at townofchapelhill.org. And maybe Michael and I will put our emails in the chat. And if you can't remember that, just contact us at planning@townofchapelhill.org, and we will get your information. If you can send your email to us, I mean, we've captured your name, but I don't have email contacts for you, and it's certainly very effective for us to send you emails as opposed to trying to rely on word of mouth or postcards. So if you can forward us your email, we will not share that. The only purpose of that email is to contact you about this project. We would not use it for anything else. So that would be my suggestion, is if we can look at that, and we are more than happy to set up another meeting to talk further.
And Judy, I know you and Michael are really good about forwarding all those questions to us as well,
Yeah.
so we can help. So we can help answer them.
And what's the next step here, Dan?
Next step is for the town to continue. I'm sorry, Julie. Next step is for the town to continue reviewing our application. We'll have at least one more round of opportunities to make revisions, insert things, et cetera, et cetera. And then once the staff is satisfied that we have a complete project that checks all the boxes on meeting all of the ordinance requirements, then they will start scheduling those advisory board meetings. And Judy and Michael, I think those are all pretty well advertised. There are 5 advisory boards, if I remember, before we would go to the town council.
Dan, I'd like to again ask the question about the mix of uses. Seriously, given the fact that we do have over 5,000 apartments already in the process, why do we need another 400 from your project here?
Yeah. All I will say, Fred, is that development doesn't bring people to Chapel Hill. People wanting to come to Chapel Hill is the reason that development happens. So our guys are smart. They do this for a living. If they build a project and it fails, their shareholders go away, they get fired, and that's the end of it. So they are responding to a demand rather than a if we build it, they will come.
Are they aware that there are 5,000 plus apartments in the process?
I'm sure they are aware of every project that's in the pipeline, approved, or even rumored about in the Durham, Chapel Hill, Carrboro market.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Judy, this is Tim O'Shea again. Real quick question. We just heard about the process looking out over the next few months. When do you think it would make sense in that process of leading to advisory board discussions? When does it make sense to have the kind of focused public forum on the traffic impacts?
Personally, I would suggest sooner than later. I mean, certainly, I mean, we have a couple of weeks after the next, the Thanksgiving week. We're not going to schedule something that week, but the first couple of weeks of December, I think the sooner we can have these conversations, the better.
Thank you. And how do you expect that? Who would run point on organizing that?
It would be town staff, Michael and myself.
Yeah, sorry, I thought that might be the answer. How would that sort of thing get publicized so that interested citizens can make sure that we find out about it?
Hoping you're going to share your email with us.
Yes, ma'am.
We will put out some through our social media efforts through the town. I mean, the problem try not to, I mean, it's a costly endeavor to notify folks. It's about $1 a notice. So the more we can do via email and contact people that way. Certainly, I know somebody said they were the HOA chair, contacting groups like that have a wider dissemination to the other residents. We can, I mean, we'll do some outreach efforts. We will work with our communications department.
Thanks.
Is there a way for us to see all the questions that came out of this meeting, Judy?
So my hope, and we can turn these around pretty quickly as far as just the raw questions. As far as getting full responses to those, that may take us a little bit long. Well, will take us obviously a little bit longer. But I'm happy. Probably tomorrow we can have the raw questions posted, and it will be on that link that Michael shared with you. And we will work. Most of these are going to be for the applicant to respond to. We'll work with them. There may be some town questions that we need to respond to, but we'll work to post.
Well, the questions themselves, I think, are really instructive, so that's helpful.
Yeah, well, that's a relatively easy thing to turn those around quickly.
Thank you.
All right. So,
I have a quick question,
Oh,
Dan. Dan, I had a quick question. How about the parking? That kind of went by fast. Where is the parking now? Did you say it was underground?
Some of the parking is underground, some of it is not underground. But one of the reasons this plan appears to have more green space and less parking is that we put 180 parking spaces underground.
And where is that located, please?
Those, if you remember the blue zigzaggy apartment blocks that are closer to North Estes, those apartment buildings surround that parking. So there's a surface parking lot, and then there's an underground parking lot underneath that surface parking lot. So it's sort of buried in the middle of the project.
I like that feature. That's a good change. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
Good. And on the positive, isn't it?
Yes, and thank you all for your input. As Judy and Michael said, we've been writing notes, and they will capture these questions, and the things that are comments, we'll see what we can do to incorporate into the next round of the design, and the questions that came through. We will certainly work with the staff and come back with responses and get those back to you. So thank you. And thank you for all your time. I think it's time for dinner or a drink or both.
Thank you, Dan.
All right.
Thank you.
Good to see you all. And I do mean that.
Dan, who's
All right, so everyone, thank you again, and do feel free to send your emails to us so that we can stay in contact, and we will work on getting the questions back to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks.